Hello and welcome to the Strange Scaffold Cool Things Club. I am the head of social content here at Strange Scaffold, Chris Slight. And this week I am joined by Xalavier, I am joined by Candace, and we are joined by our guest, the producer of Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, Rachel. So if you're listening to this at the time that it comes out, like bang on, if you're listening to this, I'm recording it on Wednesday, but if you're listening to this on Friday the 28th of February, Steam Next Fest is still happening. So we have 2 demos in Steam Next Fest right now. The aforementioned Metroidvania, survival horror, comedy, brilliant times with match 3 goodness, Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown. I know we're Strange Scaffold. We're making a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. It is not lost on me how ridiculously cool that is. How amazing it is that we get to work such a cool property. And at the same time, we've got such a slice of amazing, artful weirdness that is Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. Tactical Takedown, if you haven't played it yet, that is also our take on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it's got a different story than you may have seen before. And also, it is a tactics brawler. So it's like a fast-paced tactics game. It's really, really fun. I love it. I love them both, to be fair. It'd be weird if I didn't, right? It'd be like, why are you there if you don't love these video games? I do. So I'm very happy about that. But enough from me. If you're checking out Steam Next Fest this weekend, do check out our 2 demos. I'll catch you back at the end of the episode, however. Going to jump right in, and we're going to talk about some cool things. So check them out.
We do usually start with a bit of chaos, as that is what we are wont to do.
There normally is, yeah. I don't want to remove any of the magic, but somehow for the last 2 episodes we've begun on chaos and we've ended on really good chaos as well. And I don't know how it sunk up twice.
Have you met Xalavier?
No. I would argue the previous conversations about piss cannot be attributed to my presence in the room. I don't think that I am the common link for this subject.
I think we should go back to talking about ASMR kink. I think this is where we need to be going.
No.
We could get back to it, but that will be for the secondary podcast that will come to Patreon subscribers only later down the line.
Only.
But for
Strange
now,
Scaffold After Dark.
I'm just saying that, like, there's always supplemental content I am happy to make. But for right now, we're going to get right into the Cool Things Club. And I, Chris Slight, am of course joined by Xalavier and Candace. How you both doing?
Was good.
Hey.
What I am going to do, though, is introduce our guest who is here. Rachel, hello. Welcome to the Strange Scaffold Cool Things Club. Who are you and what do you do here at Strange Scaffold?
Howdy, howdy. I'm Rachel. I'm so lucky to be a producer here at the Scaffold. Managing one of our projects about some wacky dinos and wackier characters.
The wacky characters are the developers.
Yeah. It's the people making the game that are the weirdest of all.
By the time this comes out, the thing will be known. So I think you can say both the title and the release window, because those are both in the trailer that people will have seen.
Yeah.
Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. Coming out to you in April. Woo woo.
Woo.
And don't worry, you did not miss Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansions 1 and 2.
Or did you?
Just dive into 3.
We just had our friends and family test for Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, our second one. The results were really, really encouraging. We're really excited about people being able to play it this April, and that the game will be done by April. But my favorite thing that was popping up in the playtests was that we managed to commit to the bit too hard, and people regularly spoke about, oh man, I think I missed a game previously, because they're referencing previous games and like
Good.
organically through the dialogue and sometimes the mechanics, and they go and they feel the FOMO of missed context. And we have been debating on the team as a result of that. Like, man, it is very funny that people think they miss games. It is also perhaps not a way to make sure that people don't refund the game and go looking on Steam for 20 minutes for the previous game and then get frustrated and never buy the game again.
There's questions there, and I believe we can answer them internally, and we can
As
come
a
to good
team.
conclusions. As the person who's in charge of social content, a part of me does go, that's so much things we could make. I am immediately filled with excitement. I'm like, ooh, I could fill that void for you, dear player.
Yeah.
Do not worry. Like, we will.
Creepy
Like,
Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 2 was actually an ARG, so we have a lot of...
It's not in the lore, and you know this, Candace. You've seen our documentation.
Oh, man. Well, we are here to talk about cool things. That is what the club is all about. And I would love to begin with our guest this week, Rachel. What are you bringing to the club? What's a cool thing that you love and you want to tell people about?
Yeah, so I love tight little tactics games, and I've recently been playing one that stands out, Beastieball, which is
Hell
Pokemon, but what if the cute little guys played volleyball instead of killing each other?
I've
Love
seen
that.
that. It looks
They're
really
so
nice. So what about it do you love?
Ooh, well, there's weird little dogs made out of bushes. There's some great beats, and there's the power of friendship and also rivalry.
The power of rivalry.
Yeah,
I've seen Naruto.
exactly. Naruto, it has Naruto Sasuke arcs
Ooh.
that emerge based on how you play with your little team.
Ooh, ooh.
So,
that.
and those emerge between your team or your team and other teams?
Yeah, so if you've played Pokemon, you'll have gotten familiar with, like, you have your favorite Pokemon that you just beef up and the rest of your team languishes kind of on the sidelines while you're just maining one little guy. In Beastieball, your other players will start to rise up and feel resentful and upset if you're only maining one little guy. So it's a fun twist on that natural dynamic.
Ooh.
Interesting. And this is made by our good and beloved friend, Greg Lobanov, right?
The king of cozy games.
The king.
Yeah.
We got Wander Song and Chicory are both them as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember
Yeah.
correctly? Yeah, lots of good cozies. I've been enjoying their
Yeah.
devlogs a lot because they've been posting some of the voice acting process. And oh my gosh, I love seeing people voice little freaks. It is so much fun.
AI could never.
AI could never just be a guy who's like in a room. Like incredible.
Now, Chris, you
always
have to
the-
make sure that stays in. It will sound very akin to something you would usually edit out, but you got to keep it in.
No. Yeah, that would not get edited out. Yeah, that's staying. Yeah.
Yeah, I want
That's
the
the
strange
preview.
scaffold monster collecting RPG because our character voices.
I'm ready to
That'd be
voice
strange.
every one of them.
Yeah.
Except for one, which is Xalavier doing his neo-noir voice.
What's the neo-noir voice?
I actually have a note on my computer. It's called Physical Voice Acting Notes. So for any character I might go back to, I write down actually how I get into that character. For James Savage EP, it literally says, deeper register, physically close to mic, raise head, look down nose. So this is me speaking normally. And if I talk like this, suddenly I'm James Savage again.
That's a really good visual.
Here is a question for you, though, Rachel, along the lines, because you mentioned a beastie-based Strange Scaffold Tactics game. What
Oh yeah.
would you put? Like, what are the things from Beastieball that you're like, that's the good stuff? I would take this and move it over here. Like, what are those element. I'm moving my
Not that
fingers.
we
You can't
intend
see
to steal
this.
things. This is not a podcast.
No, this is not a genuine
chronicling
pitch.
us stealing things from Beastieball.
This is not how games are thought up. You know, like, okay, what do we like? That. Right, what can we steal? Like, let's go. But what are the elements from that game? Yeah, that you're like, I love this. I would put this here or whatever.
I think something great Beastieball does, like in response to Pokemon, is it deals with the cognitive dissonance that you experience in playing Pokemon, which is like, why are these cute little animals killing each other? And also the natural like team dynamics and like feelings of Pokemon that are never addressed become part of the fundamental mechanics in Beastieball. The relationship between the little creatures on my team kind of defines the moves that they make and how they play, and those things, like they can become like friends with each other or they can become rivals, and all of that emerges from how you play with your team. So if Strange Scaffold was to make some sort of creature collecting RPG, I think we definitely lean into like, what are these relationships between these creatures? But of course we'd make it a lot weirder. I think there'd be like like creature crushes, or, you know, strange fears or feelings, fetishes that could emerge. Who can say?
I love that you're like, there'll be weird crushes, strange, weird feelings that emerge. Like, yeah, this is sounding Strange Scaffold. I'm liking it so far.
Right.
I just feel like ever since
tracks.
click holding, we have a reputation to uphold.
True.
What would we call it? A reputation? Is it a reputation? Should I be worried about the reputation?
Have you seen your TikToks?
It's an interesting concept, though, that they've got in that game. Like you said, and it does it all through game mechanics. Like, it communicates this via you playing rather than like cutscenes or whatever.
Yeah, like in Pokemon, you know, I play a match against another Pokemon trainer and I just do my moves and I win or lose, and that's kind of it. But in Beastieball, I play a match and I do my moves, and the moves that I make and the plays that I choose have an impact on the relationships of my beasties. So, you know, at the end of the match, I might realize one of my beasties has declared that they're upset because they feel like they're in the shadow of the other beastie I've been using because they're not getting to make as many like aggressive plays. That juicy relationship stuff.
Yeah, like, and does it narratively delve into that more, or is it like purely your own game and your own experience?
That'll come through. The narrative is you are, you know, an underdog, as all these RPGs tend to be. You start as an underdog and you're here to save your town. They're gonna put a new Beastieball stadium over your Beastie Preserve, and so you have to become a proficient enough Beastieball trainer to stop this stadium coming into your town and wiping out the cute beasties. So narratively, you're on the grind.
Okay, the stadium's a bad thing then. Like, that's like,
in this specific context, it is.
okay.
Yeah.
It's like when the Olympics come to a town and they build this huge stadium and it like just drains everything around it.
Yes,
And
exactly
they're like,
that.
well, now we have a huge stadium. Question mark, question mark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that from the UK because they had the Olympics here, and it was like, what do we do with the giant stadium? I think a football team got it eventually, but there definitely was a period where it was like, this is great, but what do we do with it now? Like, what have we done? So yeah, I get that. Is it a similar vibe in there? So like, because I'm imagining like a Pokemon arena, right? Like a kind of...
Yeah, exactly that. Like those gyms that you go to. Yeah, it's really similar to that. And there's this whole narrative arc of, is the Beastieball League corrupt? Who's padding the pockets of the Beastieball League? Where's the money coming from?
Have you finished the game?
I'm getting close, but not quite yet. It's the way I play games like this is I always want to grind out all the side things as much as possible.
Are you able to finish the game? Because I see it's in early access.
You might be able to. I think some folks have. I'm not sure what the focus of early access is for this team, but I'd imagine balancing and adding more beasties. They've started doing tournaments in the Discord for this game, so I'm highly motivated to get good enough to be in one of those tournaments.
Oh, that's so much fun. Who's your favorite beastie?
Oh, the little bush dog. I can't remember his name. Little bush boy. I refuse to take in the names of Pokemon or beasties. They just have to go by what they look like.
Understandable.
Nominative determinism. We love it.
Oh, yeah. I know I don't even know what the name of the Pokemon is, but I've called it Dogmon, and that's been forever what it's called. That's a favorite of mine. So, Dogmon.
What's it look like? Which one? Which dog?
Dog. I like it. It's all scruffy. Like, I'm a big fan. I look at him and I'm like, yeah, look at you. Like, whenever I see him. So, I love it.
There's no melting ice cream cone characters in this game, but there are like sad bugs with glasses.
Sad bugs
There's
with glasses.
tigers
for this
with
podcast.
big
My dating
hands.
profile.
Yeah.
Like, we both had to do a quip. I love it.
There's the furry version of the Frosty Flakes tiger.
The furry version. That's
Isn't that
just,
the Frosty
that's
Flakes
just
tiger?
Tony the
Wait a
Tiger.
minute.
Yeah.
No, Tony.
Tony the Tiger's already an icon. I know we didn't.
And how did you find out about Beastieball? What brought you to the game? And I'm not sure if you typically play these types of games, but like, what made you feel like this is something you wanted to jump into?
I've always just kind of followed Greg's stuff, and I don't play every Pokemon-like game because I usually find there isn't enough of a twist on like the creature collecting mechanics. But I was at like a PAX West year or two ago, and there was a Beastieball stand there, and just one play and fell in love. But honestly, I just love Greg's stuff because he's always finding expressive ways to play with mechanics, and he always brings feelings into the mix.
Yeah,
I
their
think that's
Next
fun.
Fest demo was excellent. It was like, oh, this is gonna be like, I don't know a better way to say it than like really full bodied, like really fully realized once it's done. So I'm excited that it's coming to fruition.
Yeah, but I love tactics games, like anything turn-based. I can think in sequences, plan a little strategy. I eat that up. Love a tight little tactics game.
And I love hearing about an early access release that isn't just a proving out, but is the game and side content. The fact that this volleyball RPG has side content and it's still getting improved with community feedback. That's always really cool when they have a really great foundation and a full game, and then they just continue to build on it from there.
Well, thank you so much for presenting us with a cool thing that you have been enjoying. Everyone, so that's in early access now. People can check it out on Steam.
Yeah.
Yeah, play Beastieball now.
Play
Check it
Beastieball.
out.
Challenge Rachel to the tournament.
Challenge Rachel to the tournament, please. I'm going to move us on to our next cool thingster, which that's a new one. There you go. We're going with it. Candace,
Oh, it's
what
me.
cool thing have you got?
I debated a lot about what I wanted to bring in for this one because I was like, oh, I have my list that I've been making since we started the podcast. If it's like, oh, here's all the things that I want to talk about that are really cool. Here's this film that I love. It's French, da-da-da. And then I lost my mind because I started and finished reading The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. It is
okay. What's that?
so fun. It's a manga. There's also an anime adaptation. Season 2 just started airing. And it's about this guy, Rentaro, who is told that due to a clerical error, he has 100 soulmates, and he's going to meet them all in high school.
You'll tell us. Go on. I was immediately like, what? Clerical? Who's in charge? But no,
The
go
God
on,
of
go
Love.
on.
He was
Yeah.
watching a movie, and he was like, wow, this movie is 100 out of 100, and he wrote 100 on the form instead of 1.
That's really what happened?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm in.
This
It
sounds
was-
like a Damian Crawford game.
It's so silly. I like literally if you want to get like I'm so glad that I started with the anime because they clearly love it. It is so like it was so nice watching the anime and being like, "Oh, you understood the assignment." Because yes, it's a rom-com. It is genuinely like a romantic and comedic story. However, it's primarily a gag manga. It is bit after bit after bit after bit after bit. It is. So we start, and Rentaro meets two of his soulmates at the same time. And they instantly know. Everyone instantly knows that they're in love with each other, because there's interviews with the writer who's just like, yeah, no, I don't care about the will they, won't they. I want to get into the relationship. That's the fun part. And so instantly they zing. It's the zing that happens. In the anime, like, angels start singing and, like, the lighting goes all weird and stuff. It's amazing. But he meets two of them at the same time. One of them, Hikari, is, like, super, like, she's like, I have a pure girl image. Anyway, please touch my gigantic boobs. And, like, that's her vibe. She's like, I'm not going to admit that I'm super horny, but, like, I'm going to be, like, really forward with you.
Here we are.
And the other one is Karane, who's a tsundere. And she's like, I will never tell you that I like you. Absolutely not. It's not like I like you. It's not like I want to date you forever and get married. Absolutely not. And having these two connected to each other, my insurance is calling me. Get away from me.
They knew a problem was coming. They were like, this sounds
like
a complicated situation. You're getting yourself in with 100 people. That's a lot of forms. People.
It's so many forms. So with Hikari and Karane, they're both like, because Hikari is so forward and is like, I want to date you forever and we're going to get together right now. And Karane is like, absolutely not, even though she wants to. It creates a perfect character dynamic to start with, of both of them being like, shit, I got to confess to this guy immediately, or else the other one's going to get him. Fuck. And like running full speed at like trying to find like the 4-leaf clover that's supposed to mean that you'll date forever, and like trying to find it. And like, he's just so sweet to both of them, and and they're both like, oh, I want to date him forever at each other. And what ends up happening is one of them confesses, and then the other one's like, well, I want to be with you too. Will you date me? And Rentaro's like, just perishing, because he's like, I know for a fact that they're perfect for me. There's also like a subheading of the soulmate thing where it's like, well, if you don't date them, they'll die. And he's like, well, I can't.
Wait, so if he doesn't date them, they'll die?
Yeah, that went over my head for a split second. Like, yep, go on. And then my brain snapped. Hang on.
It's not actually brought up again after this first like 2 episodes.
Oh.
So I think it was just an excuse to be like, look, there's a reason he's going to try to date all of them.
Okay. He has to date all of them, because if he doesn't die, all right, well, got to do.
But they genuinely do love each other. They genuinely do love each other. So they both confess to him, and he's like, can you give me the night to think about it? And they're like, sure. And part of his thing is that he's been rejected 100 times. And so he's like, I know what it feels like to be rejected. Oh my gosh, I've had my heart broken. I just want to give these girls the best life that they ever can. I love them so much. He's genuinely so sweet. I love him so much. And so he comes back. They all meet each other the next morning, and he's been thinking to himself, he's like, okay, I can date one of them, and like, I can date each of them separately and like just lie and not say anything. Like, okay, I can do it. And then he's like, no, he literally punches himself in the face. He's like, any guy who would do that to a woman is scum of the earth. And he's like so upset with himself.
So sincere. He sounds like he really cares about people, which is a big difference from that typical type of protagonist in that kind of manga/anime.
He's so sweet. He is so genuinely sweet. He's like, genuinely, I want the best for these people. I will put their happiness above mine every day. I will do everything for them. And I'm like, yeah!
Nice, yeah. I imagined it was going to be like, all right, 100
No,
people.
he is so sweet. Everyone is so sweet. And so the next morning he comes back and he's found 2 of the 4-leaf clovers that they were looking for all day, and is like, will you please both date me?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, ah! And Hikari, because she's Hikari, is like, yeah, I'll do it. And Karane's like, wait, shit, no, okay, I'll do it too. I'll do it. No, I'm also doing it. And I mean, the second episode of the anime is literally just them trying to figure out who gets the first kiss.
Oh, I want to know how they figure that out now.
Spicy.
Well, Rentaro develops a very precise system
Good.
where everyone is blindfolded and listening to music, and he rolls a die to figure out. They roll a die to figure out who's on the left and who's on the right.
Okay.
And then he rolls a die, and it's a random amount of time so that neither one will know which one got kissed first, and no one will know who was anywhere because they're all texting, and like that's all great. And of course, it doesn't work even a little bit.
The system does
Even a little
seem
bit.
error prone.
It does.
It's so good. It's so good. And what ends up happening is they just all kiss each other at the same time. And he's like, well, the bad thing is that you're gonna have to kiss each other. And they were like, if it means that I get the first kiss, fine. And this is all leading to me saying, I read 100 Girlfriends for the Yuri, and I'm not joking.
Here we are.
Because we have dozens at this point. We are 200 chapters into the manga, and we are not even a third of the way through the girlfriends.
No.
Whoa.
So
We are at 32
they
girlfriends.
just keep stacking girlfriends.
Yes. Yes. He just keeps adding them, and he loves every single one with his whole heart. He loves them.
And the girlfriends love each other because they're soulmates with him.
Yes.
So they would also be soulmates with each other.
They're not soulmates with each other. That's that we know of anyway. But
This is like Xalavier with Strange Scaffold collaborators, just stacking.
This is how we ended up with 100 people in the Discord.
true.
Here we are. They all love Xalavier, but we all love each other.
I wouldn't
going
say
well.
that.
Rentaro is there are worse protagonists to be compared to. Let's put it like that. But the reason that I really love this manga is at no point does it feel like the team making it is laughing at these people for all liking each other. Like, it genuinely really feels like everyone just loves each other, and the gimmick doesn't come... this first little chunk with these first two girlfriends is kind of the outlier of, like, oh, they're gonna compete. And then it just stops. That is not the focus. The focus is just character dynamics and their interplay. And, like, I love that. I am so motivated and drawn to stories that are more so about how do all these weird people interact and, like, come together or don't, versus, like, well, they're gonna they're gonna build the Beastieball stadium on top of our school, which, no shade to Beastieball, it sounds like it works really well, but I love the interplay of character dynamics as the motivation for any kind of conflict, because it's like, half the time it's like, okay, I want to date this person, but she just wants to focus on school, so she doesn't want to date me. But we cut to her, and she's like, well, I'm super unhappy, but I don't know how to like do anything that isn't this thing. And it's like figuring out, okay, how do we express that, like, there's more to this kind of thing? And it's so sweet. It's so sweet. And it's really funny. Like, there's not more things that I want out of a story than being, like, super duper, like, genuine, interested in character dynamics. There's gay people there. And, like, really, really funny. It's a really good gag manga. Yeah.
I love to hear a gag manga called out, because gag mangas don't get enough appreciation, I think, for being incredibly efficient with their economy of story and funny as hell.
Yes. It is so efficient. I mean, even just that description of that first 2 episodes of the anime, it's like, cool. We decided that we're not going to do the leading into will they, won't they, all this stuff. We're going to be dating, and then we're going to get crazy.
That's the first 2 episodes.
That is the first 2 episodes. That's it. It's like, cool, we're going to have all these people find each other's freak. It's a bunch of people finding each other's freak. That's what's...
100 of them as well. You, like you said, you're only 30 odd in.
Yeah, we just met girlfriend 32, and she's adorable. But, like, it is...
Do any of them suck? Or do any of them turn up and you're like, oh, it's girlfriend 75 and
They don't
I hate them.
suck. There is some stuff where I'm like, I'm gonna power through that one because that relationship's a little weird. Okay. I think if you can get to the end of the first season of the anime and you're like, okay, I see what they're doing, and you aren't completely turned off by that, I think you're probably gonna be all right. But there are choices that are made within the first season of the anime.
I was more so imagining just like one of them is just a terrible person, but they're soulmates. And how does that come together?
They're all soulmates. Yeah. They're all soulmates. I mean, one of them way later in the manga, she's like 26, 25, I think. She's a drunk who lives in the tent on the edge of a school campus.
Okay.
Turns out she's also their ethics teacher.
Oh, wow.
Real social
They'll
commentary.
know. Yeah, I was going to say, they'll have an idea about ethics.
Yeah. He's like, well, will you date me? And she's like, you do realize I'm an ethics teacher, right? And he's like, wait.
I love how it wasn't, you do realize I'm a teacher. It's, you do realize I'm an ethics teacher.
Yeah.
I can't just be doing this. I'm an ethics teacher.
I'm going to be ethical. And you should see all the ethical situations I've been in, living in this tent. Like, it's...
Yep.
I'm getting all sorts happening to me, so, like, check this out.
There's also a ton of wordplay and, like, just nonsense names. Like, there's a maid that enters the mix. There's a couple maids that enter the mix, actually. But her name is Maido May.
Maido May.
Maido May. And then there's another maid who's Maido Mai.
These sound like Beastieball names.
Yeah.
There's this wonderfully beautiful girl. It's Too Beautiful Me is her name. That's her name.
Too Beautiful Me?
Yeah, that's her name.
Great.
Are they too beautiful?
She's gorgeous. She's amazing. She literally,
okay.
She walks around just going, naturally, and like with her hair. She's amazing. She's coming in the second season. I'm so excited to meet her in animation.
Brings us to the question we have to ask. If Strange Scaffold made this, how would it be different? What would we feel? What would we change?
The ever-evolving. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
How would that filter through?
It's the character dynamics. It's got it, and the gag manga. Like, the gag of it all. Because, like, the best part, I think, of every girlfriend's reveal is, like, you get an introduction to a relatively normal person, and then you can feel you and Rentaro both going, how's this person going to be a little freak? How's this person going to be a little freak?
We've got a lot of little freak energy at Strange Scaffold, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I do genuinely, when I'm thinking of writing stories, one of the reasons why our games legitimately end up shorter is I am thinking through the story. Sometimes I'm in the middle of writing it, and I say, we don't need these two middle plot beats. This would be better if we jumped right into the thing. And that economy of storytelling and really digging into, well, I mean, we were talking about this for click holding, right? Like, what should the intro be for click holding? And that was actually a moment where the team told me, originally it was it the team or no? I think it was our sensitivity consultant who agreed with the team that said, hey, there was originally you were on a phone call. You were trying to get this money on the behalf of someone else. It was, I believe, your mother. And because for games, you always have to explain, why do people stay? Why would they stay? Who are you thinking about? And everybody was like, nah, you take out that intro, you're just looking at a dude. You're just looking at a dude straight in the eyes. And I was like, you look at him for 8 seconds. And some people were like, and other people were like, hell yeah. And we went forward with 8 seconds staring into a man's eyes, and then you're just right into it. And it meant that, among other things, there was no interruption for any possible motivation the player could think of. And people came forward with that idea and said, this is why it should be that way. And I was like, yeah, you're right. If we're doing it now, then that means we don't have to wait for it later. And that may speak to one or more of my neurodivergencies.
Well, as someone who's recently been confirmed with ADHD, delayed gratification, certainly not a thing that lines up with that one. So, with you there.
Yeah.
I'm going to move us on to the next person, who is me. And I'm going to talk about, I try and make it different every time. We're on our third episode. I'm conscious of trying to move us all around in terms of our orders. I am going to talk to us today about the Eurovision Song Contest. It is one of my favorite things in the entire world. Now, the Eurovision...
When is it?
So that's it. I was going to say, the Eurovision Song Contest is not really... It's only been broadcast in America 2 or 3 times ever. And all those times, I think the most recent was on Logo TV. And it didn't get much of a viewership, unfortunately. Even with Michelle Visage and I think RuPaul as well. But it was definitely Michelle Visage. It was on commentary. It still didn't move the numbers. But the Eurovision Song Contest, I haven't written paragraphs. I've merely written... bullet pointed notes this time, so I'm more from the heart for this one. But
breaking from tradition,
facts. Exactly. Yeah, it's we're changing it up. I love the Eurovision Song Contest. So it started in 1956, and it was the second big use of the Eurovision transmission network. The biggest thing that had been broadcast on that before was the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in the United Kingdom. Wow. To let you know how this whole thing worked, it began as something to unite Europe around common things that we would all love after the Second World War. That was the idea. To let you know how cool this transmission system was, one of the towers that was used as a broadcast tower was the Eiffel Tower. That was where in France they just used the Eiffel Tower to broadcast the signal for the Eurovision broadcast that way. So it was the coolest thing. They came up with the idea of a song contest, which is countries enter their own entrant with their own original song that will be performed, and then a jury will then vote on what was the winner, what was the best song. The very first one had 7 countries competing. It was Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. It was broadcast in Austria, what was then known as the Belgian Congo. It's not known as that anymore. Denmark and the United Kingdom. Those countries didn't participate because a lot of them were attempting to do their own variation of a Eurovision Song Contest. But it didn't work because the Eurovision Song Contest was very good. Nowadays, you have 37 countries that take part in the Eurovision Song Contest. 37 countries enter, and 26 countries make it to the final because there are 2 semi-finals that are also broadcast on television before the actual grand final. It's expanded beyond Europe. It goes from Ukraine to Iceland. Australia are even a part of the Eurovision Song Contest nowadays because the viewership, if a viewership grows in a country and they all really love it, get in the Eurovision Song Contest. If you get
everyone is Europe, actually.
Essentially, this is kind of the way it's working. And it's the way the system works for voting as well, just before I start getting into the things I really love about it. So you have 2 tiers of voting. Each country has their own panel. You don't know who the panel is, but they're industry experts. And it used to be that just the panel did the voting, and they would give out points from 1 to 12 to each country that they were voting for.
Very easy system.
Yeah. So the voting is so exciting and fun because you have delegates calling in from each country, and it's like, hello, it is Paris calling. We are here for the votes for France. And it's so good. And it's normally some sort of person from that country who's very well known there. And it's very exciting. Always exciting for me in the UK because it's like, who's it going to be? Who's our person this year? And they turn up and be like, it's them. And they give out 1 point to Iceland, 2 points to da-da-da. But as it evolved, the audience can also now vote as well. So you get 1 vote from the jury, and then the way they do it now, which is full of drama, you get the jury votes first, and then after that, the public votes start coming in, and they go to each person to announce the public vote. So rather than just them saying this country got this country got that, they'll go like, and this happened one year, they'll go to the United Kingdom and go, United Kingdom, from the audience, you received no points. Which is insane when you think of how many people exist in 37 countries. And you think, So none of them even voted me as like their second favorite or like whatever. Like nothing. That's happened. And
imagine getting roasted that hard.
So this
That's
was it.
so funny.
There was one year the UK got no points from the juries and we got no points from the audience. And the crowd, the whole, because it takes place in a big arena, the final, full of people in the country that is hosting it. The winner of the Eurovision Song Contest's country hosts the next Eurovision. So that's where it happens. You had the whole arena going like, oh, like, and everyone was like, oh no, like when this guy got no points from anyone, like it was just universally like, oh, you've got no. He was very bad. Like he wasn't.
Sounds it.
I'll get to that later. He wasn't good, so he didn't deserve points. But none. You were like none from anyone. Like I mean, he did. He sang. He competently sang the song. You got to give him that. Like, but anyway. That's basically the Eurovision Song Contest and how it works. It's been an institution, like I said, since 1956. Back then, you used to have to perform your song with an orchestra. So countries would come with a singer, but they would also come with a conductor, which was incredibly exciting. And everyone in the audience was wearing full suits, like dressed for the whole occasion. It's very different now. Progressively throughout the years, it has become more and more and more and more and more gay. And now it's a massive gay cultural event across all of Europe.
It is.
And it's a really exciting thing. So it's an emotional roller coaster is the Eurovision Song Contest. Watching particularly So I have a group of friends who for about the last 10 years, we have met up every year to all watch the Eurovision Song Contest together. These are some of my closest friends in the whole world. To us, this is Christmas, I'm old. Well, who cares about Christmas? I haven't got any children. What's Christmas? Nothing to me. Like, I enjoy watching my nieces and nephews open presents. Great. But otherwise, it's just a lot of work. Birthdays, don't care. Done lots of them. Not that interested. Eurovision Song Contest, though, that's my favorite time of the year. It's so good. You go on a ride throughout the night. You get absolute banger songs. Like, so there will come some pop songs that are just so good. And then you'll get tears because there will be a song and you have songs that are about real things that are happening in real countries because all these countries, Ukraine is in the Eurovision Song Contest. They've had some very touching songs over the last few years and you will go from that to the most ridiculous thing that a country can put together. Like there was one year where there was a bunch of milkmaids looking like they were doing sexual things with milk things. And they were lifting up a little milk pail and they were in the skimpiest outfits and ridiculousness. Chaos. And all of that happening to you, one song after another. And it's amazing. And winning, whoever wins, it's normally a joy. Like it's normally someone that's made a really brilliant song, or you can get caught up in the annoyance that something that you consider not good is doing seemingly very well according to everything else. And you're like, curse this. And it is a camp, silly, but it's beautiful and incredibly inclusive. Like in my opinion, I think music's probably the closest thing to me to the divine or to magic. And this is what the Eurovision Song Contest completely encapsulates. Like there was 1998, there was a winner and I remember watching this one. Dana International was the winner that year. Dana International was a trans woman from Israel who won the Eurovision Song Contest. In 1998, you didn't see many positive things about trans people. But right there on television across the entire of Europe, like this was the best thing on BBC One at the time. A trans woman won. And it was like, to me, at the age of, I would have been 11 or 12, I liken the Eurovision Song Contest in the same way I discussed Star Trek Deep Space Nine, in that it shaped my morals and the way I saw the world. So even then, you're presented with this person and everything around it is like, they're great. They've won. Look at them. And it's not a big deal that they're like a trans woman, but they make a point of telling you that because that's what they're standing up for in 1998. It's brilliant. Like you don't get that in other things. And like stuff like that has happened regularly in the Eurovision Song Contest, with minority groups and people being represented in ways. You don't have to sing in any specific language, so a lot of songs are in languages that you don't hear in music a lot of the time. And you hear stuff from country. You find out the biggest star in Austria. Like, you had no idea who this person was, but they're amazing. And you hear them and you're like, oh, wow, this is what music in Austria sounds like at the moment. And you've got a sense of that throughout the years. It's brilliant. 3 minutes they get for a song, and you don't have conductors these days, but they have to sing live. The music needn't be live, but the person must sing live. And I would say listening to the songs is not enough. Like, if I gave you a playlist, that wouldn't have the same effect as seeing the performer do it live. Everyone gets access to exactly the same stage show. Nowadays, it's incredible. Like, you have this giant screens that go on the floor and around behind them and everything. And some of the shows are just amazing. Like, there's some of the most
The videos are bananas. They're so fun to watch. They're
good.
so fun.
Like, there was... Like,
As someone who
genuinely,
hasn't watched much Eurovision, but has watched almost all of Drag Race, I'm just imagining Eurovision performers doing heel flips and step flips.
Inaccurate.
like there is a, so take that and some of the beauty and emotion you can have in some of those lip syncs and put that in an arena with a giant stage and like a solid 3 minutes for this that has been rehearsed to hell, so all the camera cuts are perfect and everything's great, a whole crowd of thousands and thousands and thousands of people all screaming and having a great time, because it's just a party in the room at Eurovision nowadays, isn't it? Like, it's so good. So that, like, 2 years ago there was a woman called Loreen who did this song called Tattoo. She'd done a song called Euphoria 10 years previously, which was, I think, relatively successful in America. I think that may have got somewhere, but either way, she came back and did this song called Tattoo, and it's so good. She does this amazing performance, and it's brilliant. There are songs, like I said, that will make you cry. There are songs that will make you laugh. There are songs that will make you think. There are songs that would just blow you away with just how good they are. And yeah, everything about the Eurovision Song Contest. It's the best game in town. It's the best show. It's perfect. So that is why I love the Eurovision Song Contest. It's brilliant.
When is the 2025 one?
Annoyingly, it's in May, but I got too excited and I wanted to talk about it now. And I really debated holding it till May, but then I wrote lots of stuff about how excited I was. And I was like, because they're announcing, I'm not paying attention to it yet because I like to see it in the semi-finals. But, oh, there's a dog on the run. They're excited for Eurovision. They're announcing all the contestants at the moment for each country, and I'm trying to ignore it because I like to get to the semi-finals and see them for the first time, like perform the whole thing, and like we all watch it as a group, and it's so much fun. We get an Airbnb and we all meet up. Yeah, it's so good. We try and get one in the countryside, and we all come from different parts of the country that we all live in to all watch the Eurovision Song Contest together, and it's great. And
so good.
Yeah, good times.
I'm completely unfamiliar with the show, but two things that have really jumped out to me.
Yes.
Is one, I didn't realize how many performers, like world-changing performers, either made their debut or broke through on that stage.
Yeah.
ABBA being one of them. Holy cow.
Celine Dion. Olivia Newton-John was there. Katrina and the Waves. Bonnie Tyler. Engelbert Humperdinck. You might not know Cliff Richard, but he did as well.
Flo Rida.
Flo Rida did perform there once. It was misjudged. It's one thing I will say. I think Madonna did the halftime show once, and someone stood on a cape and she fell backwards. I believe that was at the Eurovision Song Contest off the top of my head. That was a shame. America's always made little tries at doing the Eurovision Song Contest, but it's a delicate balance. So that when the Eurovision Song Contest film came out on Netflix, there was a part of me that was excited and a part of me that was worried because I knew it was an American produced film. And it's a balance with the Eurovision Song Contest where yes, we are. If you watch it in the United Kingdom, you will get the commentary of Graham Norton, who you may be aware of in America, but
Yes.
maybe not. Yeah. Graham Norton, he's a comedian, and he followed on from another legendary commentator from when I was a child, Terry Wogan, who was a TV personality. The whole thing of Terry Wogan and Graham Norton is that if something's silly or a bit rubbish, they'll say. they'll talk about it and laugh about it. And that is, whereas if you do watch it in some other countries, they will not. It is 100% a serious thing. But therein lies the balance. There is comedy. There is, sometimes it's a bit like not very good, like a bit naff, bit rubbish, but it's fun and you love it. And then other times it's beautiful and amazing and brilliant. And that was the worry. The minute you saw, like, you're like, can America truly understand the comedy and beauty of camp that I feel you don't see as much in the comedies or in the culture of America? And I could be
I mean, that's
wrong.
why so many gay people like Eurovision.
Well, yeah, that's
Like, that's who knows.
yeah, it's true. But the film did manage to. It did okay. Like, it wasn't a bad film. Like, it did all right. But there was that initial worry of, like, I don't know. And America seemingly has never connected with it. A lot, like I said, 37 other countries around the world have. And they would love America to be involved because obviously that's a huge audience if they were excited about it. But
Well, it seems really interesting because it seems like Eurovision connects with like all core age groups across European viewers,
Absolutely.
but also has like really subversive or like like content that can speak really strongly to the queer community. Whereas I feel like a program like that would be like more like unheard of in America, where it's like this appeals to people ages like 20 to 60, but also like
I think
smaller.
the advantage it has is it's been going since 1956. So and it's been on television in all these countries for so long. I grew up watching it with my parents, like because it was the event. This was back when you had 4 or 5 TV channels, and that's all. Like, so the Eurovision Song Contest was like, this is the most exciting thing on television right now. Like, that's it. So you watched it, and so my parents love it. Like, grandparents love it. Children love it. Like, it's been watched forever. And like I said, think moments like that, like in 1998, Dana International winning, that's like, that performance is like in my mind, like forever, as something that you didn't see on anything else, like to that level. And yeah, it does. It's a really good platform.
One question I have is, again, my eyes have been opened. I will be looking at Eurovision.
It's good.
I'm seeing a wrinkle in the rules, and I'm wondering if you know how this rule came about. Apparently, the number of people permitted on stage during competing performances is limited to a maximum of 6, and no live animals are allowed. So, what's the deal with the live animals? What happened on Eurovision?
I don't know if anything happened.
One of those rules that make you go,
yeah, who brought out a live
Now.
animal? What went wrong? I bet it did. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, once you start getting into the 70s and 80s, things started getting weird. And I wouldn't be surprised if something happened, but I'm unaware of anything that did happen. I think that's just a rule to cover yourself, to not get eaten by a tiger or whatever.
My last question, just to understand how Eurovision works, is you mentioned
Yes.
that there's multiple semifinals and then there's the final. Do
Yes.
they sing the same song each time?
They do.
Okay. So it is pitting those songs live against
Live
other
against each other.
performers over and over again.
Yeah, over and over
That's
again.
really
And
interesting.
the way each country selects their song is different in each country. So here in the United Kingdom, annoyingly, they've taken it back to just the mysterious panel in the background, and they select the song and they just show up and go, here you go. But in countries like, I believe, Sweden has an entire Eurovision Song Contest level contest to select the song for Eurovision. And a lot of countries do this, where the public can then vote on who they want to represent them in the Eurovision Song Contest, which we've done in the UK a few times, but I think we also did very badly with a number of songs. But I'll get onto that in a split second. So you will hear the song, like there's semifinal 1 and semifinal 2, and they split up the 2 groups, and you will hear each song. And the only country I think it's the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and there's an other country that I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but there's a core group of countries that automatically get through to the final. And unfortunately, it's because they all put the most money into the Eurovision Song Contest existing. So they just get to go through. So it's like, there you go. But all the other countries are in the
At least we
semi-final.
know.
Yeah, they put it on Front Street. They're like, look, these people give us a lot of money, so... And like the production's all done by the Eurovision Broadcasting Corporation, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of the way the voting system works. And then you get to the grand final. And that, like I said, that will be 26 countries will be in the grand final this year. I have a total of 37. So a bunch get eliminated during the semi-finals. And then you get to the grand final. They all perform their songs again, one after another. The order's completely random. Like then they select it at random, so you don't get anyone getting the advantage of being at the end or being at the start. There's always normally a good halftime show. The like I said, the voting in and of itself is an exciting element of the whole thing, and then you get the winner and they get the big trophy and like all that stuff is great. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. One of my favorite things in the whole world. And like I said, I don't know of a show or an event that could claim to be better. Amazing night, amazing show. Strongly recommend the Eurovision Song Contest to absolutely everyone who is able to see it. So I'm going to move us along there because I've spoken about the Eurovision Song Contest for ages and I could speak about it forever.
It's wonderful.
Xalavier.
Too much lore. Yeah.
Thank you. What cool thing do you have for us, Xalavier?
So I was really struggling with my cool thing this month because all of them felt too normy. I was like, man, Astrobot won't fix me. And guess what? Astrobot fixed me.
Whoa.
I've been playing it as much as I can for the past couple weeks. I finally got it and I was like, a waste of $50. I'm sure it will be good and it will be fine. And people will say it will fix me and it won't. And it did. It cleared my skin. It straightened my spine. It will fix you. Astrobot is maybe the best 3D platformer ever made, and I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
However, I kept running into these things and being like, oh, this is really good. And then being like, but people have heard of this. The insufferable indie part of me wanted to be like... I need to be a little freak. Yeah, I wanted to recommend a film no one's seen from like 2011. And then I landed on something that I feel pretty good about, which is Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. Now, you might be asking, what is Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden? That's a very generic name. You're right. It's part of why I didn't pay any attention to that game at all. When it got announced and it got a couple of trailers, what they should have put in giant glowing lights was from the developers of Vampire.
Vampire was great.
Yes. That's why I was confused why they didn't advertise.
Yeah.
Yo, the Vampire guys did it again.
Yeah, Sorry, carry on. I was like, I didn't know that.
No,
I
please.
really enjoyed Vampire.
And even if you didn't enjoy Vampire, you knew, I think as a player, enough people know, oh, yeah, it was the vampire RPG.
It's great.
It was a game that managed to, with the monolith of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines hanging over it, do its own thing in the time of the Spanish flu, a historically researched RPG with really interesting, with satisfying combat, and with a really interesting angles and twists on what a moral choice can be. Guess what? Those people came back and did it again. They did it for a colonial American setting. An interracial couple comes to the new world. They are banishers. What they do is they investigate and get rid of ghosts. They get rid of the ghosts so that ghosts don't go on a rampage eating people's souls and becoming world-ending nightmare horrors. And within an hour, you have played as both of these characters. You love them dearly. You appreciate their dynamic. And one of them dies, becoming a ghost. And a jokey, ha-ha conversation. This all happens within 1 hour, by the way. Amazing for economy of storytelling.
Yeah.
I've been playing... I'm on awards juries, so I play big RPGs, I play small RPGs, I play a variety of narrative games. So many games, even on the indie side of things, takes so long to get it set up. And from the beginning, Banishers tells you the game looks gorgeous. You care about these characters. It feels great to play. And now one of them's fucking dead from something that shouldn't exist. It is a fundamental breach in our knowledge of what the world is. And then a jokey haha conversation that had just occurred of, there is one way to bring someone back. Would you do that for me? And you get to respond. And your partner just straight up tells you, I think I'd kill a lot of people to make sure you came back. You are now in the very real position of, my one true love is dead. Would I do it? And the game, the mechanical detail, the degree of precision of language is so beautiful. The game tells you several times in very, very clear language, the ritual to bring back your love requires that you kill every person possible across the next portion of this next, 30, 40 hour RPG.
Oh, just everyone?
But here's the thing. You always get a choice to, when you're banishing this ghost and dealing with the living person involved, you always get to make that choice. And so what they've inherently done, I haven't finished the game, but what I love about that is that they have eliminated the gray choice immediately. They have told you over and over again, hey, do you believe there's a gray choice? When you get to the end of this thing, you will have killed a bunch of people and it won't fucking matter, and you will carry the weight of it because they told you in funny little fairy tale riddle language exactly what will happen. The idea of telling you exactly what will happen and how that carries weight for every single conversation thereafter is beautiful. The combat is great. You fight with your ghost partner. The world design it's like a historically researched RPG, again, because it's colonial America, so it deals in a very realistic manner with the things that were happening at the time and the prejudices of being in an interracial couple, among other things. Now, in an interracial couple where one of you is a ghost, that's a little complex. You can choose how you deal with the banishings as they happen. You're investigating these situations. You're building your character and getting better equipment. And last thing that really struck me as, gosh, if someone had just forefronted this instead of making it appear like, oh yeah, there's a RPG with a ghost, I would have been in day one. Is not only do you start to make these moral choices because your partner is now a ghost. Do you make the choices that will ascend them to heaven, or do you do everything you can to bring them back to you here on this earth? You have a conversation with them. In their ghost form, you're again sitting by a fire in a weirdly reminiscent or intentionally reminiscent scene of when you had earlier been discussing what you would do if brought to the edge of your moral compunctions. And you get to make a vow. You vow to them. You make them a promise, which is communicated mechanically. Do you promise to do X or Z? And I don't know what impact that will have on the final thing, but the forcing the player to not just make choices, but to state explicit intent. So now it isn't just, oh, I'm going to bring you back. It's, oh, I'm lying to my partner, is enormous. It's narrative and mechanical intention communicated consistently and clearly and cleverly, like Vampire to a degree, sometimes even stronger than Vampire. And I'm sitting here going, man, if anyone had told me about any of these things, instead of telling me that Astrobot would fix me and in fact being correct, I would have discovered one of my favorite what ended up being one of my favorite narrative experiences of last year. Again, even not having finished the game yet. So if you want to dig into a unique, compelling historical RPG that from the start is saying really cool, clear, inspiring, evocative things, Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. It's good.
You're gonna have to say the name at least 4 more times because that slips right out of my ear
It did,
as soon as I finish.
I was going to try and
hearing
nicely
it.
say, like, what was that name again? But Candace basically summed up what I was feeling, which is like, I've already forgotten the name. What was it called? I really want to play this. What was it called?
In hindsight, Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden, I now understand all the reason why they created that word soup. But if they had just said Ghosts of New Eden or Banishers, I think it would have gone better for them.
That's wild.
And I make games called An Airport for Aliens currently run by dogs. I have no room to judge here.
That tells you what's
The game
going on
developer
right from the
needs to
back.
add a subtitle.
That's a good name, and I will stand by that. But yeah, that's wild to me. Like you're telling. As soon as you were like, it's a new game by the people that made Vampire, I was like, how do I not know about that? I had such a great time playing that game, and I felt like one of the few people that played that game or talked about it, and I was like, and I didn't know that was a thing, and I mean, obviously you can't know everything, but it feels like as soon as you started saying it, I was like, I feel like I should know about this. I feel like it would be on my radar, and I'd be like, I want to play this.
I mean, they had gotten a trailer, I think, at the Game Awards. So they put big money behind this thing. I think the part of the reason they might have dodged, this is, again, theory crafting, but I think part of the reason they might have dodged raising Vampire is because they wanted to build, like, the fidelity level has jumped up again, and Vampire was already a really good looking game, edging on that AAA, if not just existing solidly in that the lower end of the AAA space. I think they were trying to break out of the AA RPG bubble. I think they were trying to hit another stage of popularity and visibility. So they didn't. So they might not have forefronted in their messaging. Hey, we made Vampire, because they wanted to be like in the future to say from the people behind Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. But all it meant is that the little sickos who evangelized Vampire, they didn't get the opportunity to say again, "Oh, cool, you're doing it again." Yeah.
You can't lose your sickos. You got to keep your sickos. It's really important.
I legitimately think about that for Strange Scaffold pretty frequently. Of like, how do I make sure as we're making new things, or maybe taking a different step, how do I make sure we don't leave our little sickos behind? Our sickos have been so good to us.
So
yes, thank you, sickos.
Thank you, sickos.
The game that features co-op kaiju horror cooking, that I will say, if you've seen any tweets that just say that in images, that's me. That's my constant thing of getting you excited. But someone replied when I put up a little TikTok showing the kaiju for the first time, and I was like, oh, we haven't shown you this bit of it. Here it is. Someone replied like, sigh ... wood.
Big bear.
They were like,
the
yeah, the
bear
giant
one?
bear.
Wood on the big bear?
And they
The heart
like,
wants what it wants.
I just said, we know and love our audience. Like, as a reply, and they put a really nice, thoughtful reply after, be like, oh, thank you so much. Like, yeah, I love the games you guys make. But it was just like, yeah, we know. Like, we got you. don't worry. We're always thinking.
know, parentheses, threatening. We do know.
Yeah.
Well, look, similarly to 100 Girlfriends, it's just a bunch of people finding each other's free.
Sorry. Man, I got to play that game now. I'm gonna try and purchase that video game and play it, because I put in some hours to Vampire, so like I'm playing that.
I went back to Vampire after Banishers and got further than I had previously, and it's just as good, if not better.
Sweet.
Like it's as in like just as good, or if not better, than how I remember it being.
Yeah.
Like they don't nod. Cooks with gas.
Good stuff. Thanks, Don't Nod. Thank you for keeping us entertained, and we hope we can be another part of the cog of going, Look at this video game. Check it out now.
I want to be a cog. That's all I've wanted.
Cogs. Yeah. Everyone loves being a cog. Speaking of not that, it's asking us questions on Discord. Yay.
Yeah.
You guys aren't cogs. You're our favorite peoples.
You're our little sickos.
You're the little sickos. Oh, I really like, if for anyone's not on our Discord, there's a little section of the Discord that's click holding and everyone just says click, and then it exploded into an argument between people that wanted to say pickle and people that wanted to say click, and then I seemingly...
You can't forget plickle.
That was the one I got behind. So I seemingly had time on my hands and made many wonderful images that you could... We'll make a post out of this at some point. I've already said this, but yeah, clickle, like there was a whole thing. It was a great
I think there was
time.
there was clickle, plickle.
Yeah, there was a whole, but we've got click one out in the end, and there was a vote, and I'm so happy because there was a vote. Someone just put up a poll. I was like, right, which one? And now everyone's just abided by it. It's just gone back to everyone saying click again. It was like, oh.
Fine, democracy, fine.
Democracy, fine. And we've all agreed to it. But we also have a section, not just saying click, where you can ask us questions. Now, developers, Xalavier, like Candace has been in there. Everyone's been in there. We'll just answer questions. But we also take questions for the podcast. One that came in from Vrood, which, because it's in capital letters, I've decided to pronounce it like that.
You must.
They wanted to know how the constellation model has been working for you all in the past years, which I asked for a little more clarification, just to confirm, like, you're talking about the way we all work remotely and everything, right? And they were like, yes. I heard Xalavier talk about that business model from a few years ago, and I'm just curious on how it's been going, especially given the recent glow up. And I was like, we've had a recent glow up. I'm like, well, look, I love that for us. Just whatever, good, bad.
Diaries.
Yeah, I was like, oh, thanks. Just whatever, good, bad, ugly type stuff you all would be willing to discuss about that collaboration model. And I thought now was a great time for that question as well, because we have studio head, studio producer, game producer, I'm the team lead. Like we've got all the various spots to talk about how this works. So
All the cat corrallers in one room.
exactly. I was like moving down through cat corrals. So it was like, yeah, this all works. So I mean, I guess as a starting point, Xalavier, could you explain this constellation model as you put it?
So the way I conceived of it is, rather than building a studio where you've got these very rigid, almost handcuff style relationships, and you can be in handcuffs and having a great time. Another acknowledgement to the girlfriends anime / the
We haven't gotten there yet. We might, but
another acknowledgement to things that could easily happen in the girlfriends anime.
True.
But I think a lot of game studios are structured in these kind of handcuff style relationships where me and my 3 best friends are going to make an indie game, and if anything changes for one of us, or if anything happens, the rest of us all die. And across a bunch of games I've worked on, seen this go bad in a bunch of different ways, including sometimes people look down at their handcuffs, and that's not the most positive imagery to evoke for this, depending on your proclivities.
Yeah, what are your specific, like when you say one of them goes, they all die, what do you mean by that?
I mean, someone experiences a bereavement. Someone experiences a drastic change in productivity. Someone falls out of love with the project or just gets into ongoing beef with others. Bands.
and good stuff too. Someone gets married. Someone gets hired onto their dream project. It can be good as well.
Any type of... there's all sorts of reasons why teams break up or why games take longer to build. Games are complex to create, but one of, I think, the most notable pieces of them is if you compare them to almost any other collaboration structure, even if all the people on a film hate each other, you usually don't have all the people on a film working together, trapped in the same room together for years at a time. It is like, man, I hated filming with that guy. We filmed for 4 months in the jungle, and now I'm never going to work with that person again.
Sound design aren't in the room as well, having to put up with that person. Like they're off at Skywalker Ranch doing something else. Like, yeah.
Yeah, different positions have different levels of exposure to people. A band might stay together for an album and then break apart. And that album or that period of time might be beautiful and expressive and culminate in so much. And then again, they never want to see each other's faces. One thing I've observed looking at the world of game creation in general is that they're made by people, and people get tired of each other. People change over time. There's negative connotations associated with that change, and there are positive ones. But regardless, change occurs, and a lot of game development structures are not built to allow people to change, which is why you sometimes see this whiplash effect, where people who have been in the same room together for 3 years and have, as a result, to make that game come out, been sort of staying in a single brain space. I have seen developers, like, even for games that were wildly successful, have this whiplash of, oh, all of the growth and like the thinking about who I am as a person that I've been putting off for 3 years now has to all happen now. And it all comes together at the end, and people can get wrecked by that. And just seeing a bunch of different variations of how people work together and talk together, and how so many game development structures were inflexible. I was like, I want a flexible structure. I want one where the people around me do not have to risk whether or not they can feed their kids based on whether a game called Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator performed well. And
as a little addendum to that before you keep going, I was just having a discussion with a friend yesterday who was a teacher, and she was one of the last part-timers at this particular school, and they had a huge director change of it. It got bad. It became a very bad place to work very quickly. And she was like, all right, I'm done. And she's talking with other people who she's worked with for ages and ages who are full-timers, and they're like, I can't leave because my retirement, my health care, all these different things that I need for my family are tied up in this, which is one of the safety net becomes just the net in some situations.
Yeah, and to be very, very clear, there's a lot of great examples of studios and people staying together and working on that like a relationship, and keeping a wonderful ongoing collaboration that expresses itself in new ways over time going. But I had seen the negative version of that too, and the negative version is more often propagated because of how games get published and how our ecosystem typically works. So I was like, what if I was surrounded by a constellation of stars, and those stars could take on different configurations based off of what the project needed and where people were in their lives. And the thing is, I'd say, is that over time, it has not become easier to juggle all of those pieces and to arrange and rearrange those constellations of beautiful, talented human beings. But I am on a nearly daily basis very thankful for it, because it provides for both them and me, just speaking personally, a safety net. I don't see, someone having a drastic change in productivity and have this series of thoughts start to foment in my mind of, can I trust them? Will they be able to finish this game? Are they a good person anymore? All the things, again, I've observed on so many other different teams over time. Instead, I get to just walk up to them and say, hey, we have a different insert discipline here somewhere else in the studio. Do you need support? Is there any way that they can help? Are you going through something that will change how you can work with the studio? Because if so, we can set up pieces right now to make sure that when you leave, if you leave, project goes on, gets shipped, has your name on it, and you feel safe, supported, and you're getting paid the entire time. And like that freedom and that sense of safety via numbers, via community has been, at least for me, something I end up being very grateful for on a daily basis. I think we can talk about, it's a different conversation to say, like, how's Strange Scaffold doing after 5 years and wherever we landed, and how do I feel about that? But as for a constellation model, like, all I can think of is if I had done a more traditional studio, how many times at this point I would have just been sunk.
Yeah, I think that community aspect is really what defines Strange Scaffold's like model for me. I worked in game publishing for years, as like a producer and a scout, and so I got to meet like so many different development teams. And working with Strange Scaffold, I think the thing that's super distinct is there's all these different devs in a Discord together. They're all making a bunch of different games, and it's all under the same studio banner. And you just have this community feel of, hey, this person might be on a different project, or maybe I've been on this project with this person before, and now we're on different projects. It just has this communal aspect that I think is both like really uniting for the developers here, that makes them feel like they're really part of this big cohesive whole. I'm sure it can also feel intimidating at times, because it's like, whoa, I'm in the same community as this person and they can see me and I'm supposed to post my updates. I'm terrified. But I think that community aspect is really something super special about how Strange Scaffold works.
I did have a funny conversation with one of the programmers on a project that I'm not working on very much. And he was just like, well, how big is the Discord? Because generally someone can only see whatever project they're looking at.
We see it all. I forget. Not everyone does.
And I temporarily gave him a role that can see all the channels, basically. And he went, oh. I'm just like, okay, that's a lot more moving pieces than I thought there were. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces, but that's part of why the infrastructure team is so big, is to support that many moving pieces.
The hell anecdote I drop occasionally is that before we had the Discord, we each Strange Scaffold, I first of all had no producers, and each Strange Scaffold project was managed, directed, and produced by me, and I would have each set of team members in a separate like group chat. So, you know, the like typical Discord group chat that's limited to 10 people. Yeah. I was having to keep in my head, okay, so this group chat for these people, this group chat for this team. Yeah, it wasn't.
That's hell. That sounds terrible.
And some of those things weren't even all kept in a group chat. I would just talk to the team members individually and assemble it on the other side. And I like that we don't do that anymore. And it's a big part of the reason why some of our games can exist in the first place. I don't think El Paso, Elsewhere, or I Am Your Beast could have existed if I was still individually managing people in different group chats to put things into a dev repo. That would be madness.
I think this is one thing we even established it, I think, in the very first episode, but I would say one thing that each person in this call, but each person that's sort of come in to Strange Scaffold, I find the people that generally end up with an infrastructure role in the Discord generally are someone that can at some point communicate to Xalavier, you don't need to be doing this bit. Like, if you let me or someone else like, I could do like a calendar and I could just stay on top of this. Like, it's all good. Like, I love that you're doing it, but like, I just in other jobs they'd ask me to do it. Like, just like, so I feel that's definitely like picking away those bits and being like. So one thing I was wondering with the kind of interviewer head on is like, how do you stop? All right, I'll use an example for myself, right? So I came in to do the social stuff. When I came in, there wasn't necessarily really a system at all like that existed. And that's no shade on the people that came before me or anything like that, because obviously they were running their own system. And when you stop doing your own system, you tend to stop doing your own system. But like, how do you stop things happening like that on a project? Like, so like I said, when I came in, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to, over time, I've added more and more layers of things. Like there's a ClickUp calendar. There's like, now I've got social timelines in Excel looking spreadsheets and like all this kind of stuff that I've just been building up. And I'm like, right. And then with a thought of like, and then when I leave, if I leave, then when I leave, if I leave, all that stuff's already there and it can continue. How do you stop that kind of brain drain thing? Can you stop that kind of thing happening? Like if a key person leaves on a game and you have to bring someone else in to put them in, how do you stop that moment where it's like, oh, I don't know anything. Like that. What do I do? Is that a problem?
This is why I'm so ornery about documentation.
Yes.
It's, as an example, we just had a VFX person join for, I'm forgetting the new name.
Co-op Kaiju Horror Cooking.
Co-op Kaiju Horror Cooking. It's going to take me a minute.
But by the way, for those who are not familiar, we've been talking about making a co-op Kaiju Horror Cooking game. We just realized that should be the name. So that's the official name of the game now.
Are we just saying that now? It's our own game. We can do what we want. Should we just say that now?
Yeah, we can just say it.
We can do whatever we want.
Now! That's the name of the game!
Strange Scaffold Cool Things Club exclusive, unless I accidentally do a TikTok about it first.
Which might happen. Which can and will happen. Right?
Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And it also probably means I'm going to keep all the documentation with the old name so it doesn't create confusion.
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
But, so we just had a VFX person join the team, and it was like, oh, we're using a special version of Unreal for this. How do I get into... There's a guide. It was written at the beginning of the process. It is on an onboarding document that I also wrote at the beginning of the process and have been, giving gradual updates to. There are meeting notes, which I should update now that I think about it. But there are meeting notes. There is a Notion with lots of different things written down of, it's like, this is what our long-term goal is. This is what our short-term goal is. Here's where this deadline is. This is the folder that you need. Really making sure that, like, part of the difficulty, I think, of what you were just describing, Xalavier, of, like, the DM system, where you can do that. You can make games like that.
Absolutely.
However, making sure that all that information is accurately disseminated and everyone has the same information is the difficult part there. Which is the benefit of having a lot of documentation to make sure, no, this is the last thing that we said. And yes, we said that other thing 3 months ago, but we changed our mind.
And also having people whose explicit job is to update documentation. One of the things that I've said and that I've heard is if you don't have a producer, someone will be doing a producer's job and just not getting paid or acknowledged for it.
Yes.
So, yeah, to your point, like, Strange Scaffold and its current formation, part of the reason I think it's become, I believe, a healthier structure over time is, like, Candace is now studio producer as well as a producer on a game. Rachel is a producer on Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. We have people whose explicit job is to look for areas where the team can or should update their collective knowledge, and to keep everyone, including myself, accountable for keeping that information dissemination going, because in a structure that is so prone to people being individually empowered, but also meaning that they can individually drift from others, the thing that keeps them from going totally out to sea is that they have consistent communication. Like in our studio structure, there is no room to not communicate, basically. People can go heads down in limited ways, but one of the strengths and weaknesses of our structure is, like, it basically doesn't function unless people are talking consistently about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and there's someone like a Candace or a Rachel to update that knowledge and deliver it to others across the wider structure.
Yeah, like a very consistent part of my job is just adding the correct person. Just being like, at this person, making sure that you got that. CC.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's huge, and it's something. Yeah, I was quite fortunate in that I feel like I joined the company at the point that was becoming more and more common. Like I feel like Candace, you became the studio producer around when I was
very shortly.
Yeah,
after you
like
joined,
I kind of just joined, and you became studio producer, and like you could see that delineation of each game's producer, and like all of those things I think have made a huge difference to how we work. Like, how do you, out of interest, Rachel, as you're specifically a game producer, how do you like to run things? I'm aware of time as well, so unfortunately, everyone, this will be the only question today. I'm sorry, but
wasn't there a question we promised that we would address though? From the Discord? Or that I promised I'd address?
There was a Disco Elysium explanation.
The Disco Elysium explanation. Okay,
so we talked about Rachel's thing, and I'll very briefly
we're going to Disco Elysium explanation really quick. But Rachel, I was just wondering like how you've run your team and if it's any different or anything like that to how others are doing it.
Yeah, it was especially interesting for me joining for Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3 because this is a game with a backstory, and not just a meta backstory, but it went through cycles of development and seeking funding and like team members changing. And I don't even know that the team itself knows the full lore. We were having a team call the other day where folks were like, this is how I learned about the project, and this is my experience with it. We have one person that's been on the team the longest and seen it through like a couple different iterations. Then other members of the team, like this latest iteration, getting the game to the finish line is their first experience on it. So it was a really interesting process for myself joining, going through almost like an archaeological process of like, this is all the documentation we've had before. What is this game now? And then kind of like getting together with all the different humans working on it and figuring out like, all right, what's our new baseline for what we're making? And that's been a shifting process through development. So, the process has really been just getting people together to talk about the thing we're making, encouraging people to highlight their own questions or the things that like they're unsure of. And just further defining the thing.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. Like meetings to discuss and then tasks to do. That's always what it boils down to.
In games, you can get quite far in the process sometimes, and no one's ever voiced out loud like, but what is this thing we're making? Does anybody know? Like what's this aspect of the game? And then, once you can encourage people to talk about it, you realize, oh wait, this is undefined in all of our minds.
None of us know.
None of us
all have different definitions, which is dangerous.
That's the other one, yeah.
That's one area where I've gotten earlier in running a studio, and also just in my career, I was really scary about like quote unquote big conversations being like, hey, do we all understand what game we're making? Are we all making the same game? And now I aggressively pursue having those conversations, and it's been for the better, like universally, whether I'm a contractor or it's a Strange Scaffold game. You can tell me if you agree with this, Candace and Rachel, but like it turns out teams like having regular checkpoints where they can say, I think we're making this type of game, and then learn whether that's the case or not. And sometimes it's only one person who's been making a cooler type version of the game, and we just start going that direction instead.
Yes.
1,000%. I mean, the number of times I've had some kind of a meeting where they're like, I don't really know what this thing is going to be. And I'm like, okay, well, here, I make them a spreadsheet, basically. I make a little checklist. And they're like, oh, I get it. And I'm like, that was all you need? Yeah, great. I'll do this for every single thing you ever work on. Easy.
And because we have so many producers and they are also in consistent communication, now when we find like a checklist that works really well, we apply it to other projects. So the level validation checklist from I'm Your Beast is now being used to validate content, or as a template that was used to build a different template for Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, a radically different game.
Which was built from the El Paso level checklist.
Yes. We now have institutional knowledge via not just individuals, but like documentation and templates that can be recontextualized for the best result for an individual game. And as long as we keep making the best individual process for a game rather than like a standardized rigid template of how you build a video game. I think I can at least personally hit my goals for how I want to treat artists and how I want to give people freedom to find the process that fits the game rather than hit the walls that don't let them build a game in a way that makes sense for both their brains and the goals of the project.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, especially because we have so many one-person dev teams or dev departments, where it's like, cool, you are the one person doing this kind of art or this kind of specific thing on the game. Change the system to fit that person. Don't try to fit the person into the system. Make sure it's a thing they will actually use.
Yeah. Well, Xalavier, you now have 1.5 minutes to explain why you won't play or why you hate the video game we mentioned earlier. What was it? What was your feelings?
Disco Elysium.
Disco Elysium. 1 minute.
He almost played it, then just now started playing it.
My 1 minute explanation is that earlier in my career, I was one of the first people that apparently talked to Studio Zaum, and that Studio Zaum talked back to about being a writer for what was at the time called No Truce with the Furies. I played it, what existed of it at the time, and I was like, oh, this will change the RPG world, or it will be a massive garbage fire that permanently taints every single person who touches it. So I respectfully backed out of the process at that stage. And having played the initial piece of it and kind of having seen what its kind of deal was, that was just, I was like, oh yeah, I have played functionally Disco Elysium. And that was my state of mind for like 5-6 years. Now, I'm actually playing the full version of Disco Elysium, and it is what I thought it was, but it's also so much more, and it's great. I love Disco Elysium, and I will not be accused of Disco Elysium slander. You can take your Kim Katsuragi jacket, and you can keep it in your closet. You don't have to put it on and hunt me. I do love Disco Elysium.
Confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. Confirmed.
We all know that Xalavier has that lizard voice.
What do you make of the Splinter Studios that have come out of the Disco Elysium explosion? Who will be the true successor?
Oh.
Who will be the true successor? Now, if you want an inflammatory discussion and conversation, that's the true one to have. And we will have that exclusively on the Strange Scaffold Cool Things Club After Dark ASMR Patreon experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta pay us like $40.
He's looping it all back around. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen.
Monetization. We don't sell DLC, but we will sell controversial takes.
Oh God, we will. God, yeah, I'll sell them. I'll put them behind a paywall. You can't be offended if you've already paid me money to hear it. That's my stance. Forever.
My favorite example of someone paywalling a personal thing was someone paywalling their coming out in a game DLC. I'm not even joking. It's so funny.
We will find out what that video game is next time on the ASMR After Dark Strange Scaffold Hot Takes Club.
No, go take a nap.
Hang on. And that's a show. There we go.
You made us like 8 Beastieball characters right there, Candace. Good job.
And that'll about do it for another episode of the Strange Scaffold Cool Things Club. Thank you for sitting with us, learning about all the cool things that we love to love. And, you know, that probably is actually the most chaotic ending to an episode we've had. Like, I started the conversation of this episode. I think maybe even before we hit record, but I was like, man, I wonder if we can be as chaotic all the time at the end, because it just happens naturally. We don't plan to do that. But like, I worry now, especially now I point it out, that we're not going to be able to do it. And yeah, here we are. Big thanks to Rachel, the producer of Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, for joining us this month and for sharing their cool thing. Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, by the way, has a demo right now in Steam Next Fest. So do go and check that out. If you're listening on the day this came out, Friday, 28th of February, 2025, I think you've got till March 3rd for Steam Next Fest. So you got till like Monday to check stuff out. But there's a demo for our survival horror, Metroidvania, comedy, Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. Match those threes, friends, and meet some dinosaurs that are interested in you. Find out. Also, we have a demo for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown, which again, wildness. We've got a turn-based tactical beat-em-up of the TMNT in Next Fest that you can try right now. Still wild to me that we have made a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. I won't go over that. But until next month, friends, thank you for joining us. Do head to our Discord if you want to get in on asking questions. We may have to expand out. We've started actually just answering some of the questions on the Discord itself, because we get so long into the episode and we're like, man, we've only really got time for like one question. And the question itself had like a long old answer because it was a big question. Let us know. Let us know. If you're listening to this, let us know on Blue Sky, or let us know on the Discord itself or YouTube, wherever you're listening to this. Reach out to us. Let us know. Do you want to hear more questions getting answered? Because if you do, I'm sure we can find the time. But yeah, for now, though, thank you for joining us for another month. I've been Chris Slight. See you soon.